I've heard we need to be on the lookout for fruit fly, but I'm not too sure what I'm exactly looking for.
You might see a little fly on a piece of fruit or a leaf, but what you're most likely going to see is a dead fly inside a fruit fly trap. Sometimes, when they're inside the fruit fly trap, it isn't as easy to identify them. But what you're really looking for to start off with is the size. They should be approximately 5 to 8 millimetres in length.
Okay, so it's much smaller than a bee or a common housefly?
Yes, so it is smaller than a bee or a housefly, but it's not as tiny as the little flies that you see around your fruit bowl inside or in your compost bin. These are vinegar flies, and they help to decompose the food waste. So the next thing to look for is the distinctive colours of the Queensland fruit fly. They have yellow markings on a reddish brown body. They have clear wings with brown veins. Sometimes the flies that you find in the trap have lost their vibrant colours and will be a lot duller than the ones that you might see on photographs. Sometimes it's much harder to see, but if you look very closely, the female fly has an ovipositor or a stinger, which is where they lay their eggs into the fruit.
Well, Narelle, I'm going to put out some traps, see if I can catch some of these pesky little beggars. Now, the fact that we can't tell whether they're in there because we can't see them, are there other means to tell whether they're in your garden?
Yes, there are other signs that you can look for in your garden to see if Queensland fruit fly is around. If you've got some fruit on your tree, keep an eye out for small pin pricks on the outside of the fruit. The fruit will also start to rot on the outside. The fly, when it lays its eggs, puts a bacteria into the fruit. That helps it rot and provides a food source for the larvae and the eggs when they're starting to grow. The bacteria that's released into the fruit also helps it ripen faster and then can drop to the ground. On the outside of the fruit, there might be a small dent, or one side of the fruit might be ripening faster than the other. You might see that some fruits react differently depending on maturity and variety of the fruit. Some things like nectarines or peaches can have a sap-like substance seeping from the outside of the fruit. Another thing you might see is scars on the outside of ripe avocados. This is where it was stung as a young fruit and has healed as it's ripened. In soft fruits, the decay might set in so fast that you can't even see the sting marks. In stone fruit, you might see exit holes where the larvae have chewed their way out of the fruit. It's likely to have escaped and start pupating.
If I see marks on the fruit, on the outside of the fruit, and it's starting to rot, this would be a good time to check for infestation?
Yes, John. So if you see marks on the outside of the fruit, or your fruit's going rotten or starting to drop to the ground, now's a really good time to look inside to see if there's any infestation. When the fruit fly lays their eggs, they're really small and tiny and can't be seen with the naked eye. But within just a few days, maggots or larvae will emerge and you'll be able to see these. They're about 1.5 millimetres in size and will progress and grow to about 8 millimetres. So if you cut a piece of fruit open, you'll be able to see some white maggots or larvae. They'll usually wriggle around and try and escape from the light that's coming in from you cutting the fruit open. Larvae are creamy white and shaped like a carrot, with a blunt end to their tail and black mouth hooks towards the front. If the larvae that you're looking at has legs, they might belong to a number of other pests. If you place a Queensland fruit fly larvae on a flat surface or on your hand, they'll curl up and leap or jump. Correctly identifying Queensland fruit fly is important so that you're putting in place the right controls and treatment. If you've got Queensland fruit fly in your fruit, or even if you think that it might be infested with Queensland fruit fly, it's important to dispose of the fruit correctly. You can place it into a plastic bag and put it into the sun for 7 to 10 days, and then place it into your rubbish bin. It's important to remember to keep checking your traps regularly throughout the season and be ready to control fruit fly early.